be careful with your money. And you know, when you sign stuff and it sounds like you're getting a lot of money, by the time everybody gets a piece of it, including the government, what was $100 becomes 15 cents. The dump truck of money doesn't keep coming for the rest of your life. You gotta look ahead.
Steve, thanks so much for coming by to sit down with us. We were doing these artist series and we've had so many people here, but to have your time and the quality of your time is really magical. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are on this ride of a career that is so incredible that you have created. I want to kind of go back. I mean, we talk about 5 Grammys. That's incredible to have achieved that in what you do. Go back to school, you're at school, you meet Steve Porcaro. What was it that brought you together with so many great musicians?
Well, you gotta understand, I grew up with Michael Landau and I've been friends since we were 12 years old. So and John Pierce was my first friend in life, and he went on to play with Huey Lewis, do sessions and so.
Yeah.
And you know, we were just hanging out the other day, and you know, then the 3 of us went to Grant High. We were supposed to go to North Hollywood High, but we went to Grant High. I don't know, we got transferred there because some weird stuff went down, I forget. Anyway, Steve Porcaro had the hot band at school.
Yeah.
And we saw him, it's like, I want to play with that guy, you know. And then Jeff was already in Steely Dan.
Doing dates, yeah.
It was like, wow, man, this is like the real stuff, you know. And me and Mike went over and played, and you know, he was going to pick between us. I think he liked the 2 guitar thing because Steely Dan was big, and you know, Mike was the jazz guy, I was the rock guy, you know, and we played together since we were kids, and we were crazy people. The 3 of us were crazy people, still are. And we joined the band, and then from there, we immersed ourselves in studying music and in school. Took all the music classes in school, piano, harmony, sight singing, you know, the theory stuff, and you know, and then we had our own bands. We studied privately, and then we rehearsed every night after school. It was truly like a 4 or 5 year period where we just dove in to, or actually about 4 years, of full-on study, learning how to read, learning how to get all this stuff. We were all ear players until we met Steve and realized what was really required. And the fact that you could be, like our dreams of being a student musician are much more realistic than being a rock star per se.
Yeah.
We still wanted to have our rock and roll bands and stuff, but there was another career that you could have, and it was like maybe more attainable at the time.
At that time, the studio session scene.
Not now.
Yeah.
There's no business, and that's the end of the song. You know what I mean? We just, you know, you just get in this wind tunnel. You know, there was like, we had the mindset was there's no way it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
It was tunnel vision. It was like people would say, you kids are crazy, man. You're never going to get a billion chance to make it or whatever. We just didn't care.
So we talk about passion. You obviously had this deep passion.
Yeah.
What was that driving force? I mean, you were just so focused to stay into it, to learn the craft, even learning how to read. You learned that,
was hard.
later on.
Ears were already pretty big from learning stuff off of records, and then having to go back and learn how to read Mary Had a Little Lamb because you had to get the notes right. My teacher, Jimmy Weibel, God bless his soul, he was amazing. He was very patient with me because he took me through the very early basic stages, and it was hard for me.
Yeah.
He goes, stop using your ear. I go, I can't help it, because read the notes. So he'd give me something with just, beginning stuff. And then I'd obviously nail it and come in and he goes, okay, here, play this. It's the same level of reading, but it was new notes to see if I was actually looking at the notes. So I just clocked it real fast and went, okay, I got that. So he busted. It was hard for me to break that habit and break it down and build up. I wish I'd have started right at the beginning.
But it seemed like what you had, and listen, what Mike Porcaro, what Steve Porcaro, what Jeff, all these guys, you had this natural ear that just allowed you to step into the music first. So the reading
I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, man, like we talked about earlier, and that changed my life. And I just said, I want to do that. And that was, of course, I was a single-digit kid, just like, oh, isn't that cute? I just stayed at it and played a terrible guitar. It was just like, thrifty drugstore acoustic guitar with the strings that far off the neck. Punishment. They were going to invest in this. The Beatles were considered like a fad that was going to go away in 6 months or something, but it never did. It was the on switch to my life, and it still touches me so very deeply.
So many musicians that I speak to here, and myself too, at that time, when they were on that Ed Sullivan Show on February 9th of 1964, what do you think it was that, when you saw that just drove you in? What was that?
Well, understand, I was 7 years old, and I didn't know about girls and money or what it was all about. There was something about the sound, something touched me deep inside, like a great piece of music does. Something you hear and you just go, oh, I gotta have that, I gotta listen to it over and over again. It had that profound effect on me. Prior to that, music was just background noise. My mom had the radio on. My mom was 19 when she had me, so she was listening to the same kind of stuff popular music of the day.
Yeah.
So that was great. I was listening to rock and roll as a kid and wasn't like shunned upon.
Yeah.
My old man was in the show business behind the camera, so he would just look at me and go, "Oh, kids, really?" You know, he was like, "Show business, really?"
But there were some great things. I mean, your dad, from what I understand, I Dream a Genie.
Oh yeah, my dad. I was born. My dad was doing Ozzy and Harriet. How's that? I told James Burton that on a session. I go, I think my old man did before I was, you know, he's like, they love me, man. It was just something in my life that's always been there. If I don't remember a life prior to playing, it's almost like I have vague memories of a Christmas light in my eyes with my dad with the big, horrible camera when I was a kid. Come on, smile! It's like blinding my, you know, searing my retina. To the point where, like, when I got punished when I was a kid, they wouldn't, you know, they'd take away the guitar and the stereo system from me, tell me I couldn't do that. I'd be like, can't I just take the ass whooping instead? You know? And, you know, so they get you where it hurts, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
So what was it about you just the musicians that you were meeting with at a young age? Because first of all, The Gospel According to Luke, which is a book that I want everyone to go get.
Oh, thank you very much.
It really kind of like, you know, allows you to.
Well, I can be a little bit more detailed because I had more time to do it. Here, absolutely. I mean, it was just a passion that I never, once it hit me, I just had to make that sound. George Harrison, I said I was drawn to him because the sound of the lead guitar, and I saw her standing there and just seeing the way it looked and just the way they looked with the vocals, the way, and Ringo, you know, just he was a dear brother of mine. I adore him, you know. Wow, you know, I said I have to be like that. I want to make that sound, and I'll never do that, but you know, we always die trying.
Well, you have lived through it and you succeeded to it. So I mean, think about what you've done.
Very lucky.
Well, you're lucky, and that's wonderful. But you know, luck has to do with hard work. You really have put the preparation into the instrument at all levels, and you still do.
Well, I still practice, you know, but not to get faster and wilder because I hurt myself real bad. I mean, I don't have a lot of strength. I mean, I can go a little bit for a little while, but you know, I have to save it, you know. Plus, it's probably better at this point for me, being there's little kids this big that can like have the dexterity, and it's just amazing. I can never do that. Okay, I give up. I'm just going to go back to playing melodic stuff and try to do, you know. It's like got off the rails there for a minute, but it's all good. And life is just like one of these. Yeah. Nobody has a static life. I wish. Wouldn't it be nice if everything was all nice and even? But these great highs come to great lows, so you can appreciate the great highs, the yin and yang, up, down, left, right, black, white, you know.
So you meet up with Jeff.
Well, no.
David,
this was much
right?
later. No, this is much later. My first friends, we found like-minded people. A neighbor around the corner, John Brewer, had a drum set, and I got this really little teeny amp about this big, you know, and a thrifty drugstore electric guitar with a curly cord, and I could play some chords, and we'd just get together in a room. And then as we got into junior high school and took it more seriously, I'd find like-minded people who could play. Yeah. And it was weird. I was in a band called the Blueberry Waterfall when I was 11, and we were making money. We were every weekend, and there was 3 young kids that were 11. We could play. Yeah. And it was very freakish at the time. Now every 2-year-old has a band now. You know what I mean? It's like, but we played the teenage fair, and we weren't teenagers. And we were really good. And the first time we played on really big amps, I got a zap on me that almost took me off the planet, you know? Because before anybody checked grounds, a little kid walks up at the stand all the way down to like this to sing, and with a big amp on a big Fender Jaguar with a Fender fuzz tone. I went up and my mouth hit the mic. I had a chat with Jesus, God, Buddha. You know, we had a hang. My seared lips came back, and I did the gig, and I was like, and then we won. They gave us an award just because we were the youngest guys, and they couldn't believe that we could play. So that was encouraging. We played at the school in 6th grade.
What tunes were you playing at that time?
Well, at the time it would have been 1967, 68. So it would have been, you know, early Cream, Beatles, you know, my first attempts at playing Foxy Lady and stuff like that. There was a guy that used to teach us songs, Mark Hollingsworth. I'll never forget. He had a great old black-faced twin and a Jaguar, and he used to let me use it on the gigs. And he taught us some stuff, and he taught me my first blues scale, and it came to me real quickly, and that was the first time I started playing lead guitar. So I was 11, and I could still play the solos of the day and work out, you know, Creedence stuff and stuff that was on the radio. I could pick out that was guitar music. I was drawn to anything guitar. Yeah. And then I met Mike Landau, who was another guy who, you know, was just so good, and he was like 6 months younger than me, and we just like that. I met some guys in junior high school. We made a little demo record because his father was an engineer, and you know, there's pre-voice changing stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean. So I've been doing this my whole life.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, and I always kind of see it with you as Providence. Providence had a path for you. The fact that you went to Grant High, and we moved to there to meet the players.
Changed my life.
It changed your life.
No, there were some freakish, weird, serendipitous moments.
Several of those have gone on in your life. So that's why I say Providence had a hand in guiding you along the way.
I believe in a higher power. I believe in all that there's, maybe that we already had this plan before we came in, even the bad stuff.
Yeah.
To learn, have the life experience. I mean, I guess everybody goes, how come my life is so hard? Well, maybe you had to go through that this time. I mean, maybe that's more of a Buddhist concept of reincarnation. Maybe we get more than one chance in this. I mean, I find that more easy to believe than some guy gets born the Queen of England. Some guy, the Queen of England, sorry about that, I'm Freudian. Someone gets born into the royal family and someone is alive for, a half hour and starving in the desert somewhere. And you go, that's pretty random. You know what I mean? Why? I'm trying to get that together. How come he died and I didn't? Why did I get this shot and not somebody else? I mean, there's things that just happen in your life. You go, one move to the right or left and none of this would happen.
Absolutely.
So you have to go, is this somewhat preordained with the ability to change with freedom of choice? Right place at the right time, preordained before you come to this life. God went, you get to do this. So I don't know what the rules are. I'm just glad that I got some of that.
Absolutely.
Because nobody in my family plays music. I'm like the freak sperm, See, that explains this, right?
So you meet Steve early on, you start to hear what
Well, Steve kind of took us in, man. He was the guy that we wanted to work with. And then we found out, got the whole family, Mike and Jeff. It was just a magical family,
Yeah. So the whole
family. There was a work ethic that was, we saw. Like Dad would come home and practice. And he was one of the number one percussionists in the LA studios. And we saw some of the music he had to read. It was like, hey. Marimba parts that are just like, cartoon music, all 16th notes with all this crazy play. Like I can even look at that and get it together to read it,
But just think of that ability to be able to come back and see Joe Porcaro starting to come home after some serious gigs and start to woodshed some more. Yeah. What an image and what a lesson that is.
People think practicing is just like trying to play as fast as you can or something like that. Try practicing half notes with a metronome. Play half notes and get that time together.
Yeah.
If you can do that and make that feel good, and then you work that up. See, that's time, feel. Is people forget there's nothing on YouTube about get your time and feel together. Yeah. And that's not just about playing to a click. It's like, how do you play to that? Where is one for you? How group time works.
Right.
One guy's a little ahead, one guy's a little behind, drums are a little behind, the bass is in the middle. It floats a little bit now, you know what I mean? Now everything's so quantized that if it's not like perfectly auto-tuned to the point where you're going, it's like having 14 cups of sugar on a cup of coffee. It's like the first sip is palatable, but you're gonna hate it after the second. It's too much. Now that's just my taste. For today's kids, that's the sound that they are into. There's a lot of great young musicians that are making some stuff. It's just a question of where we used to have top 40 radio, and that was if you got a hit record on the radio, then they put you out and they build you for 2 or 3 albums and you build a career and you open up for all these acts and hopefully you get a gold record after your second or third album, fourth album, maybe platinum.
Yeah.
And then you had a career for life.
Right.
Nobody does that anymore. Yeah. So the rules change, and I'm an older guy and I kind of go, man, these poor kids today, they're never going to have the chance to experience some of the things that we did.
Right.
Playing out in the clubs for real, like having a steady Wednesday night gig.
Yeah.
And you're playing behind an artist or something like that, and you get people to come down and see you perform. Maybe you get a demo session from that.
Yeah.
You make $20 a tune, 24, whatever. Probably the same amount of money now as it was 50 years ago. But you get the minor leagues and work yourself up. Now it's just like they expect you to be instantly awesome with your very first song. And you make a big flashy promotional package and you give it, and they really weren't ready yet.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get into a recording studio until I'd been playing for 14 years.
So you did an amazing amount of listening. You were
lifting the needle off records to get ear training, as well as, I got more out of that.
Yeah.
In terms of learning records and parts off of records, just by, of course, my parents hated it.
Yeah.
If you play that song one more time, my dad's gonna kill me. He goes, why do you keep doing that? I go, because I'm trying to learn it. He goes, turn it down to the point where my ear was inside the little speaker and the little thing. Trying to get, you had to fight for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get it wrong. Then you find out the older guy down the street and learn how to play it right. And you went, oh God, I'm working way too hard. And you go, oh, so that's what it is. And you find people that were better. You'd seek out other musicians. You go see other bands that were playing, go, oh, let me see, I like them. And then sometimes you'd steal guys in different bands and start a new band that was better than all of them.
Right,
you know?
right.
There was no rules, but we were all so hungry for it.
But see, that's what you're saying about the hunger. And you mentioned the fight. We had to fight for our knowledge. We had to really work hard for it. When you talk about lifting the needle up, we all did that. That's just the only option that we had. Yeah. And you had to fight for that knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rules have changed now. I don't know if I could survive in today's world. Saying it. I've been very fortunate to have this kind of a career. And like Starr said today, my phone's always rung, man. You know, and I stopped doing sessions 25 years ago. I mean, I do one for a friend or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the days of going to work every day and not knowing what we were going to do or who we were going to play with and just seeing the trunks in the hallway go, oh, Starr's here, Keltner, or Jeff, or Mike Picard, or, you know, who Paige is here, you know, the guys, you know, all the, you know, the whole circle of guys. I'm playing guitar with Jay Graydon or Dean Parks or Mike Landau or, you know, Ray Parker Jr., you know. Those are the best days of my life.
Boy, many of these artists that you're talking about, we have interviewed for the Sessions panel. We had
Rit saved me on a session once, man.
Yeah.
I was late. Gene Page session where everything's all written out, and I was 19. I was panicked, and I show up, and it's like 70 people in the room. They're gonna man Gene's like, you know, one for rehearsal and notes. Next one's live, the 2-track. That's some high pressure, right?
Yeah,
I show up like late, and like I get guitar too. Obviously, I'm sitting next to Rit, you know. And, you know, my part is the piano part in D flat without any, you know, chord symbols. I'm late. They're going to make it. The next take, I'm looking at this thing like I saw my grandmother bend over in the shower naked or something, you know. My eyeballs bugged out of my head. And Rit looks at me, and they're counting it off. And I look over his parts as tacit, Phil. And he just goes like this. On 2, he had changed the charts. Yeah. And he's been one of my closest friends ever since then. I was a hero of mine, but you know, and we all listened to Larry Carlton, you know, I mean, we were all studying the records of Steely Dan. We were, all of a sudden in high school, we started listening to the studio players, Louis Shelton, you know, the what's now known as the Wrecking Crew, the people that came before us, the Section, with those guys. You know, we started from these little pockets, the Quincy Jones guys. We'd listen to the different pockets of the session players and look at the names and listen to those records and go, why are those guys, what are they doing? And study the little parts, not the solos, the rhythm parts, the little colors, the chords, voicings, little muted parts. And I sort of just culled from all of that and created something. I'm basically just a rock and roll guy, you know, but I never transcribed Charlie Parker solos and stuff, so consequently I never say I'm a jazz player, but I can play through, I know what the harmony and theory is, you know, to play through changes, but I just wouldn't do it by using slick jazz 2-5-1 turnarounds. You know? I mean, I try to find something a little different. And in that struggle is where you find your style. Right. Sure, I copied Jimi Hendrix. Sure, I copied Larry Carlton. Sure, I copied Jeff Beck and, you know, George Harrison and all the greats. And then it was Steve Howe and all the fusion guys, John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, you know, and all the greats from that era. You know what I mean? And we got, as it started out, simple but great music by the Beatles. That was, you could strum along with a guitar chord, and it got harder and harder as time went. So we were exponentially going along with that. As we learned, the music got harder, so we were able to go with that. Now, you know, the entry thing here is you have to have mega chops before anybody looks at you. Yeah. And I learned how to play like the rhythm part to Gloria and House of the Rising Sun, and I was in a band.
G-L-O-R-I-N.
Yeah, and I could do dun, 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 which ended up being Jimmy Page, who was a studio player back then, and I could play that at like, you know, 9 years old or something like that. Everybody thought that was so amazing, you know. And so I was a lead guitar player then.
Incredible.
By going dun 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 dun. Then I learned the first blues scale, and then I could pick out stuff off of. John Fogerty was great in the sense that his solos were very part of the song, but they were simple, so you could learn them. And it would inspire to go, this is great. Mark Farner, Grand Funk. I loved all those records. And I had a Grand Funk band, my buddy Jimmy Nestor, when I was like, you know, 9 or 10 years old. Yeah. Where he was plugging his bass into the speakers in his mom's TV set and a little amp and stuff. We just set up in the apartment building and just try to jam the stuff out. Yeah. And we still had big dreams then, even though it was like ridiculous to think about that when you're 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, you know. But we went for it. We'd find little gigs, and then in junior high school we'd play at the dances, and then when we went to high school, we got all the really good ones, you know, because we're in the Still Life was our band.
It's amazing how you met certain people and some of their parents, like even David Page, his dad.
Marty was great. I love Marty.
What an incredible musician in his own right. So
he was so sweet to me, man. I mean, he would be so rough on Cats on Sessions. I'd go, geez, Marty, he'd come up and he'd go roast everybody on the session. He'd come up to me and he'd go, Luke, play whatever you want. It's like, I want to kiss him. You know? Everybody else has all the shit. It's like I got chord charts. He goes, play what you want. Trusted me to come up with something.
What do you think these mentors saw in you? I mean, these are people that trust you.
Everybody I ever came in contact with that was a professional musician was a mentor of mine.
What do you think they saw in you? They believed in you?
I think they thought I was funny. The humor, they found me very interesting. I really haven't matured much since I was 15. I'm 62 now. Everything was like this. I got to meet this cat. I got to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I got to do this. I got to study. I got to be better. I got to practice. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I still wake up in the morning like depressed that I didn't hit something right. You know, I get bent out, but I laugh now. I go, yeah, I make a mistake.
Yeah.
I saw Larry Carlton make a mistake once. Way back 100 years ago, he's playing at Dante's or something like that with Robin Ford. I think he broke a string. It was like a B string or something like that. It was like on the gig. So what he did, he clipped off the high E, and the B string, ripped it off, and he played a ripping solo on 4 strings in real time.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And the place went berserk. I go, see, that's, you know, you make a mistake, you make fun of it, you break a string, it goes out of tune, you gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just go, excuse me. You gotta get through it.
Like Miles said, there are no mistakes, only unexpected opportunities.
I saw an interview with Herbie Hancock where he said he made a chord mistake on a gig, and Miles heard it and he played the right note to make Herbie sound good.
Yeah.
I thought that was a beautiful Herbie story.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to work with both those guys. I know that sounds ridiculous. I've got to work with so many of my heroes, but
think about that. You know, here you are coming up, you struggled, you worked hard, you fought for what you wanted. Now you start working with people that are literally you're looking up to, and you're sitting next to them.
Oh, I remember I thought you're gonna love this. I was 17 years old and I auditioned for Narda and Michael Walden's band. He just did his first solo album coming off of John McLaughlin.
The McLaughlin story, yeah.
And I went down and he told me to meet him at. I don't know. These were days when people just refer you and they go to open auditions or whatever. And I had to carry my amp up to his room, and then I'm 17 years old. I'm in the room with Narda, and he's got this, and we meditated for 20 minutes, and I'm going, okay, but I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sitting there going, I don't know any of these people, I don't know what's going on. Of course, I'm into TM now. I mean, I'm totally into all that stuff, but at the time, I was green as, there you could be. And, I got to go play with him and stuff like that, but we never actually, the tour just kind of fell apart. Nothing really happened, but I got to know him, and we're still friends now.
And what was it like when you were playing with him? Here, you meditate, you sit down.
I've never seen anybody, well, first he just auditioned me in his room, and he played some keyboard stuff, and I jammed a little bit and played. Yeah. I guess he kind of liked that, and invited me to go down and play with a bunch of other guys. I think Jimmy Haslip was playing bass then, I think. We were all just kids. A guy named Ben Schultz was playing guitar, was a monster guitar player, and I don't know what was going on in the room. I was really young. These guys were a bit older than me, so I was trying my best to hang. But I just remember Narda sitting behind the drums and playing so hard that the rack tom flew off, like in 11 or something. I'm just trying to hang on by the seat of my pants, going, this is really intense, I had a lot of weird experiences. I talk about a lot in the book. But,
it's all about, that's right. I want everyone to get the gospel according to Luke, and so they can kind of.
Well, that story isn't. I had to edit so much out. You can only get my whole life into 300 pages.
But there are so many great stories in there. You capture a lot of stuff. Just talk a little bit about Toto. About just the essence of what Toto was about in your life. I mean, you really.
Well, it's been my whole life.
You are a part of this magical band with these magical people.
All I ever wanted to do is, once I met Steve and I got to play with Jeff and jam with Page, he used to come to the high school gigs and sit in with us.
Yeah.
Jeff's in Steely Dan and we're playing Steely Dan songs. When Page played keyboards on the Steely stuff, like they were doing Pretzel Logic and Katie Lied. Jeff was doing Katie Lied at the time when the band was really, so we were learning some of this stuff and hearing, rough mixes that Jeff would play, and we were like, wow, we just want to hang out and be like these guys. All I ever wanted to do was play with, Jeff and Page. I got to do that.
Pretty powerful, and Jeff, God rest his soul, man. What an incredible person, an incredible player, and just a real spiritual saint.
Yeah, man. He was like a big brother I never had, man.
Well, Mike too. I mean, Mike has a player, another one that just had great. I mean, you have always been surrounded with great, dedicated, great people, great musicians, great at their craft, driven. students of the art form that want to keep on learning. You've always been
But the
around
thing is,
that
I'm
kind
still
of
a
people.
student. Aren't you still a student? I mean, I'm still learning. I still have books delivered to the house and try to find things. And you always find something. I'm not really trying to do something specific. It's more like just open up new hearts. We get one new idea, one new harmonic idea. That's a win-win.
There were many sessions you did where you just walked in, you had no idea.
Every session was like that.
You had no idea what they were going to give you. What personality quality do you think you had that allowed you to have the freaking guts?
You had to have confidence.
Confidence.
Not ego. Not like, rolling wrong, I'm so great. No, you had to walk in, I know what to do here.
Know when you
And
craft.
deliver it. And especially when on 24 track, they didn't have like tons of tracks. You had to nail it.
Yeah.
You had to come up with a part on a blank piece of paper with chord symbols on it and be able to read the roadmap. And they were taking it, take one, even before anybody knew what was going on, had found a part. So you had to find your part really fast if I was sitting with another guitar player like Graydon or Rid or Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah.
And Dean Parks, those are the guys I saw the most. When they used to hire two guitar players, you had to get it together quick. Okay, you got the chords, I got the meter part. Okay, then you'd find that, and we'd make it work together, and just play their song or just play the simple stuff, and we'd have to produce or arrange the song on the spot.
Yeah.
Now you get songwriters for that.
Yeah,
I'd be really wealthy.
What motivates you now?
I still have the desire to get better and refine it. Not better, faster, better, more refined. More choices, more harmonic knowledge. There's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be the new kid on the block. There's always going to be. I'm waiting for some young kid to come along and shake it up again. Yeah. We need a new Eddie Van Halen. We need somebody to find a new thing. We've kind of heard all the tricks now.
Yeah.
People are going back listening to Dave Gilmour.
Yeah.
And the simpler approach, because all this stuff is great in a small club.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in a big room.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
That's why Dave Gilmour comes out, plays one note, bounces off the back of the arena, and he gets a standing ovation. Guy can go out there and go like this, and just sound like, and people be like, it's very impressive. And I know we all strive to have technique. It's important to have that, but groove and swing and taste really need to be, that's the most important part. Chops, great. You need taste and time and groove and original ideas.
The sound you always got. 1992, there was a party that Remo Drumheads had put out, the 25th anniversary, and they asked Toto to come in and play a tune. They had Louis Bell's big band, they had Frankie
yeah.
mini bands, and I was
1991.
1991. Well, actually, I think it was 90.
I know we did one too. We did the song Jake to the Bone that we had just recorded on the.
Absolutely. And there were two stages, and there was so many bands going on. I was the MC of that show.
I remember.
And when I came out and I introduced the band, when you guys came out, not just how great you played, your sound sounded like you were in a studio, and you all just listened so well to each other, and you completely changed the atmosphere in the room. You lifted everyone up with just that one song in that sound. Where do you think that came from? What kind of?
It was a song that we wrote together. Me, Paige, Jeff, and Mike.
Yeah.
We thought, okay, Jeff was going, look, I want you to play with me at this thing. We're only going to do one song, and this is the song we're going to do.
Yeah.
Jeff was always the guy that would. He got the final nod, like, is it cool? And Jeff would go, yeah, that's great. And then it was cool. And that was on sessions too. Record producers would go. Jeff would go, it's take two. He played a lot of games, though. He was funny. If we were on a session where the music wasn't quite so great, and we all like had it was like 5 o'clock, and we had like 7 o'clock session. We want to get. And he goes, I'll get us out of here, man. And he'd go in and go like, that's the one, man. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one we overdub. And it ended up being on the record, and it was fine. But sometimes these people make us play it until we were dead.
Yeah.
Take 49 and be like, dude, you've killed the dog, and now you're just running over it and running over it. It's already dead, man. Maybe we should get a new dog. You know what I mean?
All these musicians that you mentioned, when the purpose of this, the exercise of this video is for the young people to go out there, and when you mention these names, to stop and do the research of who these people were, of who they were. Do the research.
Well,
go back.
Ray Parker is one of the funkiest guitar players in the world.
Absolutely.
He's not just the Ghostbusters guy.
Yeah.
Granted, that paid for a wonderful life for him, but that ain't the cat that I knew. Man. I got the guy I knew was playing with Boz Scaggs records, and he was a funk, great parts, just soulful. Yeah, a beautiful cat. I adore him. He's like our Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest, and he pulls it off. Like you go, and when he plays, you go, yeah, you are, man. He's just some people. Everybody's personality is different. And that's another thing. You put a bunch of guys in a room, What's the vibe like?
Yeah.
Because the vibe really comes into the music.
Yeah.
You know, if there's one guy that ain't making it on the gig, he's scuffling or he's not making the part, then that could screw up the whole vibe, and then everybody's going like, it's not me. That guy, you know, he's, and I've seen cats that were really great fall apart when they saw the red light go on. The pressure. We welcome the red light. Take the first take. And, you know, Jeff, a lot of times Jeff would get it. First take, 2 takes.
Yeah,
we do take 2. He goes, take 1, fix your parts. And we get out and we write, okay, I got to fix from 238 to 310. I got lost on the DS. You know, punch in your part. And he would be right every time.
He had such a natural understanding of not
tragic
only
loss, man.
music and people, but just he understood, you know, personalities and psychology.
He was like a shaman, man.
Yeah.
He was like unique. You know, he would help so many people and never told anybody. I run into people all the time. You know, Jeff really went out of his way. He started my career. Jeff really did that. He did that for me.
Yeah.
So I know that's real.
Yeah.
He called me like my first session. Get down to Studio 55, Richard Perry, man, Diana Ross, man. I told him, you better be good. And I'm like at my parents' house, like, what?
You know, you have done, I mean, my gosh, Ringo's band now, you're doing the All-Star Band, it's so good. I heard you guys play on Long Island just a few months ago.
Oh, yeah, you were there?
I was there. The band was
Hey, man, playing with him has just been one of the greatest joys of my life.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend of mine. I adore this man. Oh, my God, he's the greatest thing ever. I've had the great honor of working with 3 of the 4 Beatles, Paul, George, and Ringo. But Ringo's really become a dear friend in the last 8 years.
How do you, even with yourself, how do you even comprehend that?
I started thinking about it. Now that I'm older, I look back, you know what really hit me was when I was asked to be in the All-Star Band of the 50th anniversary of the very show that inspired me to be on a musician.
On CBS
and we were working really hard. And it was like me and Peter Frampton on guitars, Kenny, it was a wonderful band. It's everybody in the band was a star. And we backed up everybody that they had chosen.
Yeah.
Don was the musical director, and he put it all together, chose all the guys and casted the whole thing. And we played behind it, and I didn't really think about it. I mean, I was really excited to get that call. I was like, this is big, man. And Paul and Ringo were there. And I looked up right before we were going to go on to do the actual show in front of an audience, because it was rehearsals, changing keys, hectic. We got to go to Capitol. We got to do the Grammys with Ringo. It was a really crazy week. It was a fantastic week. But when I stood there and we were going on, and I looked up and I saw the clips from Hard Day's Night, it just hit me. If you'd have told me then that I would be here now, it really it was a epiphany. It shook me up. I got kind of emotional about it. I went, wow. And it was a personal moment. I didn't share it with anybody. I just went, the mathematical odds of a kid in North Hollywood seeing that and seeing these guys come, the Beatles, and like somehow managing to, through Quincy, to get invited to the Michael Jackson Thriller record. We met Paul first, and we got to work with him on a movie and hang with George Martin, and I said Jeff Emmerich. I used to work with those guys a little bit, you know, after that. And just being in a room and seeing this unfold, it was magical, man. You know, just to be a part of that. You have some little granule on a beach of that success. You know?
Absolutely. That was 2014, the 50th anniversary, February 9th. God, that was it was aired on television at the same time that the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday night. And Tom Hanks helped put that together. And I watched the band because Kenny Aronoff had texted me, being the drummer on there. And what would the Steve Lukather now tell the Steve Lukather of years ago, the young player? What would you tell yourself now from experiencing what you've experienced?
I wish I learned how to read music right away. You know, I'd be better at that. You know, I can do it, but you know, I mean, don't do hard drugs. Don't overdo anything in that world. You know, drinking, drugs, and all that stuff, and learn about money. Make sure you get a lawyer before you sign anything to explain it to you.
In closing, you've got people that are going to be watching this. They are highly influenced by you.
It's not a wig, okay? You want to see?
I can pull it out.
All right. No.
What would you say to this next generation? What advice would you give them?
I got a kid in it, 32 years old. You know, he's making records and doing this. It's tough to monetize this. It's not like it was. So be careful with your money. And you know, when you sign stuff and it sounds like you're getting a lot of money, by the time everybody gets a piece of it, including the government, what was $100 becomes 15 cents. You know what I mean? So, you know, and if you do get lucky and you pull one out of the hat, the dump truck of money doesn't keep coming for the rest of your life.
Right.
You look ahead. Yeah. You know, musicians don't have a regular job, so if you have a windfall of any sort, save your money.
Yeah.
Because you'll need it.
Well said. Steve, you have inspired millions of people.
No, I haven't.
You really have. And you continue doing it as you play.
Come on.
You've made it happen. We thank you so much for the session series here. You are fantastic. Thank you so much for being who you are.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks for having me. Good luck, guys. And don't listen to anything I say.
Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.